Welcome to Fab Monday. Today we'll talk about Activator parameters. This is a great new feature announced in the July update of Microsoft Fabric. Let's see how it works. Activator objects were not capable to pass parameters to the Fabric item they were calling. This was a huge limitation. For example, let's imagine that I'm capturing failures in notebooks and then I'm triggering a data pipeline to do something about that failure. The problem is, how the data pipeline will know which notebook failed? I would need to create a data pipeline different for each notebook. This would be a big problem, and it was a big problem. That's why the new feature, the parameters feature in Activator, is a big advance. I have here an example with a workspace where I have a notebook to cause a failure and a data pipeline intending to advise about the failure. The notebook contains a simple cell causing an error, a division by zero, which will cause an error, of course. And the data pipeline has an email action, which will send an email alerting about what happened, about the failure of the notebook. Let's take a look on the settings. Here I'm configuring the settings and I'm using many variables. Let's take a look on the subject. In the subject, I'm using a parameter in the pipeline. Parameter item name. There is one interesting and important detail. When the pipeline is triggered by an activator, we have trigger parameters. These trigger parameters, they are sent by default. And three of them, source, subject, and type, they are sent to the pipeline by default. So I could use these parameters. But if I need some additional information, we can pass this information as well. For example, the item name, the name of the notebook which failed. That's what I'm using here. And then I'm adding here the additional values I'm receiving from trigger parameters. This is my pipeline intended to send an email alert in relation to the notebook failure. I made a video before about why to use a pipeline for that. This is important. There is an important reason for that. You'll find the link for the video at the end of this one. For any additional information which I want to pass to the pipeline, like the item name, which is not a trigger parameter, I need to configure in the parameters of the pipeline here. I add in the parameters of the pipeline the item name. That's how the pipeline receives additional parameters besides the trigger parameters, which are the default. Let's create an activator object to advise about the failure of the notebook. I can use the real-time hub. The real-time hub is sometimes hidden here. I can bring it back. I have the Fabric events and job events. Job events are the events which will advise me about the failure of an execution. Then I can create an alert, set an alert. Select event. What event would I like to capture? I have all these options in relation to job events, and I want to capture the failure of a job. Deactivate the other ones. Okay. Event source, the source of the event. By item, I can choose a workspace. In this case, I'll choose this workspace I'm using as an example, exec failed sample. Then I can choose a specific item, notebook 1. Next, and save. Run a Fabric item. I'll select the workspace I'm using, which is the exec failed sample, and ask to run the pipeline, send the mail, run the pipeline. And I'm creating an object, I'm creating an activator object. I'll choose to save in the same workspace, exec failed sample. Then I'll define the item, in this case I'll create a new one, and give a name to this item, create. The item is created, I can open the item, or I can just check my workspace refresh the workspace, and then you see the Activator item created in the workspace. There it is. My Activator item is available inside the workspace. The next step is to schedule the notebook and wait for the results. Schedule. I'll activate the schedule every 2 minutes. Let's execute at 16:45 and apply. Now we just need to wait a bit for the notebook execution and the alert result. After the first events happened, we can come to the Activator. We can see the occurrence of the first events. We go to the alert, and here is the action, the execution of the pipeline. We go to edit this action. The 3 trigger parameters, they are default here. They appear by default. But I need to add a new one. I need to add the item name, which I included in the pipeline. And I need to define the information that I include in the item name. So I include item name. And then apply. Save and update. And I can close the Activator. We can also, on my email, you can see on the side of the screen, this side of the screen, that I'm already receiving alerts about the notebook failure, and the alerts already contain the name of the notebook, which, by the way, is notebook 1. So the alerts are already being delivered to me. This is the full email. We can also see the notebook 1, and we can see the values related to the trigger subject, type, and in this case the notebook name. The Activator parameters makes the Activator way more flexible, and alerts in relation to errors way more flexible than before. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next week.